Pascal had this wager about God. And by the way, there are interesting connections between theology and the search for extraterrestrial life. It's possible that, we were planted on this planet by another civilization. That,
Yes.
We attribute to God powers that belong really to technological civilization. But putting that aside, Pascal basically said, there are two possibilities: either God exists or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if God exists, the consequences are quite significant, and therefore, we should consider that possibility differently than equal weight to both possibilities.
Yes.
And I suggest that we do the same with Oumuamua or other technological signatures, that we keep in mind the consequences and therefore pay more attention to that possibility. Now, some people say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. My point is that the term extraordinary is really subjective. For one person, a black hole is extraordinary. For another, it's just a consequence of Einstein's theory of gravity. It's nothing extraordinary.
Yeah.
The same about the type of dark matter, anything. So we should leave the extraordinary part of that sentence. Just keep evidence, okay? So let's be guided by evidence. And even if we have extraordinary claims, let's not dismiss them because the evidence is not extraordinary enough. Because if we have an image of something and it looks really strange and we say, oh, the image is not sufficiently sharp, therefore we should not even pay attention to this image or not even consider. I think that's a mistake.
Yes.
What we should do is say, look, there is some evidence for something unusual. Let's try and build instruments that will give us a better image. And if you just dismiss extraordinary claims because you consider them extraordinary, you avoid discovering things that you haven't expected. And so I believe that along the history of astronomy, there are many missed opportunities. And I speak about astronomy, but I'm sure in other fields it's also true. I mean, this is my expertise. For example, the Astrophysical Journal, which is the main primary publication in astrophysics, if you go before the 1980s, there are images that were posted in the Astrophysical Journal of giant arcs, arcs of light surrounding clusters of galaxies. And, you can find it in printed versions of the Astrophysical Journal. People just ignore. They put the image, they see the arc, they say, who knows what it is, and just ignore it. And then in the 1980s, the subject of gravitational lensing became popular.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that you can deflect light by the force of gravity. And then you can put a source behind the cluster of galaxies, and then you will get these arcs. And actually, Einstein predicted it in 1940. And, so these things were expected, but people just had them in the images, didn't pay attention. So I'm sure there are lost opportunities sometimes. Even in existing data, you have things that are unusual and exceptional, and are not being addressed.